show where I try to educate real stories. Thank you for watching Truth and Justice with Vivian King. I'm honored tonight to have Mr. David Edwards, a volunteer in the community, tell his story. In his younger days, starting in 1991, he has had trouble with the law in his prior days, and his last sentence was for 25 years. He's currently on parole and working every day and volunteering with all of the programs that are going on in the community now. In fact, I met him at a community affairs program about all of the guys getting shot, about the Ferguson shooting and where do we go from here and how do we prevent that type of shooting, police shooting, unjustifiable shooting in Houston. So without any further ado, we'll go back to our old format and we'll talk to someone who's been to prison that can tell us about how he overcame such a horrible situation in the 90s. So David, thank you for joining the show.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And so this is David Edwards. And David, you were telling me right before we went on air that you were born in Lafayette, Louisiana.
Yes, ma'am.
And tell me about that. So you were born there and you moved from there to Houston. Is that correct?
Well, sort of. My father lived in Greenville, Mississippi. My mother got pregnant with me there. I have two sisters older than me. They were born in Greenville, but for some reason her and my father broke up. And she had me in Lafayette. My mother was from Louisiana, where my grandparents on her side lived. So I was born in Lafayette, and ended up in Houston as a baby. They say 6 months after I was born. So that was around 62, because I was born December 28 of 61. So that was around 62. I was in Houston in the Third Ward area as a baby.
Okay. And so tell me about your life growing up.
My life started real young. I started smoking marijuana at the age of 11. I was in a Cub Scout and had some older boys, in the Cub Scout. My first experiment with marijuana, I started when I was about 11.
With the Cub Scouts?
Oh yeah, I was a Cub Scout. We went on
now
camp
with other Cub Scouts?
I'm not smiling because I'm glorifying that. I'm just letting you know. And I started smoking cigarettes at the age of about 12. Started smoking cigarettes, and I started smoking marijuana. And that's on and off where the trouble started, I guess.
Really? You say you guess. You don't know?
Well,
what you think? Because I think...
We'll say yeah.
Okay.
Say yeah. And there was a dysfunctional home. My mother drank. I had a stepfather. I had a good mother, nevertheless, but,
that alcohol just had a hold of them.
Well, knowing what I know today, alcohol and drugs are not people's problem, because I carried some deep down hurts inside of me for years. And I found out when I got incarcerated the second time, when I went to prison the second time, that alcohol and drugs wasn't my problem.
Right. Well, let's not get that. Let's not jump that far first. Let's bring us to that point. Give us about 5 minutes of background before we get to the prison part, because that's a good story.
Yes,
but I want to figure out, so your mom drank, and you lived between your mom and stepfather and your natural father in Greenville, Mississippi.
Well, I didn't know. Yeah, mom and dad got back together around 6 to 8. My daddy took my mother back with a son. My brother was born in 67.
By someone else.
Yes. And my dad took my mother back with his 3 kids, and basically my brother wasn't even quite 1 year old. My daddy we rode the train in Mississippi, and he was there waiting on us, took my mother back. For some reason, after a few months, we got a script out, my mother run off while my daddy was at work, and brought us back to Houston. And the rest is history.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am. And I had a wonderful dad.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you said you started roofing at 13.
Yes, I did. I had.
Was that in Houston or somewhere
in
else?
Houston? In Houston.
Who taught you to roof at 13?
My mother had 5 brothers. Her oldest brother was a roofer, and one Sunday they were shorthanded, and he said, "Boy, come on, you want to go to work?" And I used to do this stuff with my grandfather in Louisiana when I was like 8, 9 years old. He taught me how to paint, so I was used to working, and I would always want to go. I see men working in the neighborhood in Third Ward, old men working back then. I would go there and talk to them, and next thing you know, I was painting and cleaning up, whatever. And so my uncle knew I had a work ethic, so he got me one Sunday. I went to work with him, and they showed me how to draw that tar out that tar pot. And they put that little $50 in my pocket that day, and
the rest was history.
The rest was history.
13-year-olds making $50 a day, that's
yes,
good.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And when I got 14, I was making $250 a week. Wow. Nixon was president when I was 14 in I think around 73, 74. Nixon was president, and we were working out of Southwest Houston at the time. A lot of apartments was being built, and I'm talking about at a certain time of day, you need to be headed from out there. So to look at the Southwest side now, it ain't the same that I saw when I was a kid coming up. And I used to get whoopings for working, not going to school. Mm. Yes, ma'am.
So you like to work better than go to school?
I used to be an alcoholic, now I'm a workaholic.
So when you say who would whip you for working and not going to school?
My mother, we had truant officers back then.
Right.
And I would be gone for like weeks and 2 weeks at a time. And my little big-ass sister when the truant officer picked me up and carried me to school, she said, "Boy, Mama gonna whoop you." We look alike. And
you and your sister?
Yes, and so Mama, she would come to the school and get to the house. She would take my money and a couple of days, she'd take my money. Oh yeah, and I would go back after a couple of days. I would go back because see, my thing is, a lot of times we didn't have lights in the house, no food, and I wasn't going to school looking any kind of way. And that's the way, that was my mindset at the time. I'm not saying it was right, but that's what my mindset. I was a young man, a young kid at the time, and I saw my mother suffering. And a lot of that money that I made, I fed my whole family, my 2 sisters, brother, myself, mama, and stepdaddy.
So why didn't your mama work?
Mama worked, but like I said, I had a good mother. My mother worked, my mother did hair, my mother used to cook, but you take a turn, and these things that you put in your body, you don't know what's depressing a person. And so this stuff become to overtake you, just like it did me. I had got so bad, I would take food out of my box and go sell it for crack.
Now let's talk about you then. When did you first get involved with, since you were working so hard at 13, making good money by the time you were an older teenager, $250 a week, because some people just barely make that now.
I know.
$1,000 a month,
I know.
That's $1,000 a month. That can pay your rent and car right now. I mean, people making that now. So I'm just saying that was a lot of money back then. So how did you take a turn to making that good money to doing something illegal like crack and alcohol? What happened?
It was later on, like I said, I started smoking marijuana at an early age. So I always smoked marijuana. And I saw what crack cocaine did when it hit the streets in Houston around 80, 81. And I saw what it did for like 8 years. I didn't fool with it. I didn't fool nobody that messed with it. But one day I got hurt on a job, and
what kind of injury did you get?
Roofing. A guy we working at the big warehouse, and we had a chute running from the top of the building down to the dumpster, and I was clearing the bottom of this chute where we can get some more trash in. The guy threw some trash off, thought he could miss me, and I didn't see it coming. He hit me and knocked me out of the dumpster, so I got injured. And they said itemized devil workshop, so I used to sit around and smoke marijuana, and I met this neighbor of mine, and I went over to their house. We became friends. We drank 40 ounces at that time, and I went over.
About how old were you then?
I was about 28, 29. About 28, 29. And I went over to his house. He lived with his mother. And I knocked on her door, and she said, "Baby, he back there." So I knocked on his bedroom door. He had some more people in there, and he didn't want to let me in. Let me say this right here. He didn't want to let me in. And so I said, "Man, let me in there." He said, "No, man, you don't." And I went in there, they was smoking crack. I didn't know, they was pre-born. And I said, "Man, give me some." He said, "No, you don't need none of that." He told me that. He was a friend. And I see this guy today, he's a good guy. His mother done died. He's still out there though. And he said, "Man, you don't need none of that." And, I had a little money saved up at the time, and I saw what this stuff did. And I got on it. I thought I could handle it. When I got on it, in about 3 months.
That was the freebasing? You got on it like that?
Primo. You
What's
put it
primo?
in your cigarette.
Oh, in
you
marijuana.
put it in your cigarette or your marijuana cigarette or a regular cigarette. Okay. And then I started from that, and then I started smoking on the pipe or the bowl and got addicted. 3 years.
For 3 years. Now, what years were you addicted?
From 90 to 93. When I
And
went to prison. Yes,
were
ma'am.
you able to work during that time? The 1993?
I worked there. That's one thing about me. I wasn't just a guy that's out there begging for money like you see a lot of them doing now. I would work. I would work all week and make that money and throw it away in about 45 minutes or less.
So you could wait till the weekend to do your dope?
No, I did it through the week. I was just functionable. I was functionable.
What?
Yeah, at that time.
Did you get real
yes, ma'am.
skinny?
Oh yeah, I weigh about 215 pounds now. My heaviest weight was about 165. I was about 146 when I got arrested.
And that's when you got arrested in 1991.
And I was a 29 in the waist. I'm a 38, 36, and a 38 in the waist right now.
So in 1991, you didn't weigh very much. And
No.
that was in Beaumont?
Beaumont, and then here. See, I lived in Houston. I went to Beaumont and got arrested.
Now, how did you get arrested in Beaumont?
I had a smokehouse. I had a house I lived in. I made it out of a smokehouse.
What's that mean?
I had a house that I was renting, and I had a big yard with a fence. And I used to let people come to my house to smoke.
Smoke
People needed
what?
somewhere to smoke crack.
And that was here?
Yes.
So the
This was
house,
back in the 90s when that stuff was
Hot.
out there.
so people had to have a place to smoke, so they couldn't smoke at their own houses?
Well, you know, people at this time were turning their house into smokehouse. You know, you want some dope, you ain't got no money, you let people come in and,
So they pay you for that?
They pay me and, and you flip it or whatever. I mean, I had a smokehouse.
I'm just trying to make my audience understand what a smokehouse is.
Well,
What
I'm
does
going to help
that
you in the
mean?
kind of way I can because I want to help somebody.
So, I mean, what do you mean by a smokehouse, though? So if
I
I
let
come to
people
your
come-
door,
Yes, you come
then
to
I
my
have to give
door.
you something to smoke.
Well, you give me something to smoke. I wasn't charging people. Some people charge folks. Some people just mess over people. I wasn't that type of fella. You know, I was a pretty good.
I know, but
Yes,
I know you're a good guy, but what is a smokehouse?
You let people come to your home and smoke. Just like you have a house and you get on drugs and you have some friends that acquaintances that smoke. They can't smoke out in the middle of the street, so, you be friend with them. They come over there, they get their stuff, and they come over, hey, man, we can go over so-and-so house, That's a smokehouse.
So did they have to share with you if they came to your house?
If they come to my house, they're going to share with me.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was in that. But, I'm going to just be honest with you. You're not going to come to my house with no drugs, and I smoke drugs, and I can't have none.
Okay. All right. Can we take a phone call right now?
Sure.
We'll take a break. Thank you for calling Truth and Justice for Vivian King.
Thank you for calling Truth and Justice for Vivian King.
All right. So turn your volume down and, on your TV and then state what you want to say. Otherwise, we're going to hear me reverberating in the background. Thank you. Please make your comment, sir, ma'am. Hello?
I'm enjoying the show. Thank you for having Mr. Edwards on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Keep watching. I think his story is going to be good.
Okay, I will keep watching.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're right.
Ma'am, can you make a comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd just like to add that I know him very well. He's a very decent, loving man, and glad to know him.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
All right. God bless you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Is there another caller holding?
you.
Okay. So, so anyway, from 90 to, so you got hurt. You start pre-mowing, which is putting cocaine on cigarettes or
Cigarettes or
marijuana,
marijuana,
cigarettes, and smoking it, and then you went on to smoking it in a pipe,
Yes, a
and
bowl.
you got in a bowl, and you got hooked,
Got addicted.
and from there, you got arrested in Jefferson County. So you had this
Yes.
house.
I had this house, and one guy that was smoking at my house, I didn't really know this guy.
Now this is your house in Houston.
This is my house in Houston.
Okay.
I didn't really know this guy, but he came to my house, and somebody brought him there. I can't remember, and he had this pickup, a little Mitsubishi, and he had plenty, drugs and stuff, and I was helping him, and he needed to cash the check the next morning. So we went to my check cashing place where I had off of Wayside. And we got in there, and I know it was taking the people a long time. The people knew me. The guy took a check from his company, and it was hot. So next thing I know, the cops handcuffed the driver to the steering wheel, and they walked in. I was inside the place with this guy. They told me to step over there, and they got that guy in handcuffs because the people in the check cashing place told him, say, not him. They knew me. I didn't know the check was hot.
But you were cashing it. right?
No, I wasn't cashing it. The guy that was...
You were just with him.
I was with him. I took him.
Okay.
He needed to cash a check. It was on a Saturday.
Okay.
He needed to cash a check, and I took him to the check cashing place where I deal with. Because remember, I worked, and I had
Right.
a check cashing place where you cash my check at.
Right.
And the driver, this guy's truck was at my house. The truck, I thought it was his, a little Mitsubishi. And the cops they handcuffed the driver that took us up there to the steering wheel, but they let him go. He didn't have nothing to do with it. He just a driver. They took this guy to jail. They let me go. So I had the truck at my house. So I was under the impression this guy gonna be gone at least over the weekend. So that evening, me and the girl I had at the time, girlfriend, we went to Beaumont. And we went to Beaumont to see some of my cousins, and I was out buying beer and crack. And I had one of my cousins in Beaumont with me. You know, he's a little younger than me. And we were driving, and I got arrested. That truck registered. What happened, the guy, I think it was on a Sunday when I got arrested. That guy, the truck belonged to his sister. And so, but he told me it was his truck. I had the key to the truck and everything. It was in my yard. So I went to Beaumont in the truck. I didn't steal a truck. I was just,
Right. You thought you could use
I got arrested for unauthorized use. And I guess his sister was upset with him. But anyway, but I got probation on it. One of my cousins, he's deceased now. He got me out of jail. There was in 91. He found I had been in jail for 3 months. He said, I got his phone number. He said, "Cuz, you still in jail?" I said, "Yeah, he's still finna come get y'all." So he bonded me out. He paid $550 and got me out. That cousin just died about 8 months ago. I went to his funeral. And the Lord put him, I had some money in my pocket. The Lord put in my heart so bad. His widow was in there, and I went and gave her, I think, about almost $700. And I gave a testimony of that. When he never asked me for his money.
Wow.
But I gave his wife
the
that money.
back. Mm-hmm.
I put it in her hand in church. They had his wake in church. My cousin. He never asked me for his money, and I've been out, I've been to Beaumont back and forth, and he passed away about 8 months ago.
So that's the probation you took in Beaumont.
Yes.
And you shouldn't have, because you didn't know it was stolen.
Well,
I mean, you didn't know you didn't have the right, but you went ahead and did it.
Right. Well, I didn't know the guy's sister, and so,
Right.
But I was on probation, and I stayed there for a few months. I couldn't get no job there. I'm a roofer. Couldn't find nothing there. I had that house in Houston, which I lost the house when I got back. The little girl I had, the young lady I was going with, she was out there. I tried to get her back, but she was someplace downtown, and I liked her, and she, yeah, I did. I liked her.
You liked her?
Yeah, I liked her.
Was she on dope too?
Well, she was downtown in some place. I can't think of the name of the place. And she was out there. Yeah, she was in the place, and she had like she didn't even know me. So I lived well enough.
I said, I liked her too.
Yeah, I did. I liked her.
But you couldn't get her back.
No, I didn't get back.
Couldn't get her out. Was she in a crack house or something?
No, she was at some club downtown.
She worked there. She lived there?
This was back in '91.
She lived there?
I don't know. I just went inside. I found out where she was through some friends, and I went. They say she working down. I went in there, and it was a lot of hush hush.
Gotcha.
And yeah, and I don't mess around downtown. Besides going to the store or something, but I don't mess around in places down there. Even back then, I didn't mess around down there.
All right, so then you're on probation in Jefferson County,
Yes.
and then how do you get in trouble again?
So I get arrested in Harris County. I'm still slipping and dipping and smoking, and I get arrested in Harris County for, I'm gonna tell you how I got arrested. You do some stupid stuff. I grew up in 3rd Ward, and I was in Emancipation Park. I had just brought me a brand new smoker, and walking in the park with dope in my pocket. And at this time they had the jump out boys out. They was
Now the smoker you're talking about is smoked meat.
no, I just say smoker. No,
You talking about?
I was smoking.
Okay, the pipe.
I had a brand new one, ready to go
Okay.
smoke. Had dope in my pocket.
Oh,
I'm
my
gonna show you how
goodness.
stupid you is.
In
when
the
you do
public
stuff.
and pot.
I was in Emancipation Park. The jump out boys, we had the jump out boys back then. The jump out boys was a black pickup. You couldn't, but the youngster was over there selling dope at those apartments over there on 2M. And I was walking in the park. I said, "Hey man, they got the jump out boys." So they say, "Get out the park." So they started telling me.
Who
the
did?
jump out boys did.
Telling you to
These
get out
guys
the
in
park.
the truck. Get out the park. I said, "I grew up in the park. Y'all can't tell me nothing. I got dope on me. And it's something to smoke with." So they left them alone. They drove in the park. Said, "Stay right there." So they drove in the park. They came and got me, Miss King. They put me in handcuffs. They say they didn't have the room for them because about 4 in the truck. They had the room. They say, you come on, you walk. So they had me walking in the middle of the street while they followed me handcuffed.
Oh Lord.
Going toward the Hutchins on St. Emmanuel.
Right.
And
To
when
the
they get down
to the substation.
Yeah. What used to be my elementary school, Dunbar Elementary. So
They made you walk in the street.
they made walking the street handcuffs. They left them alone. So I'm telling you, do stupid stuff,
That dope will make you do stupid
I
stuff.
don't know if they're dope. It's just,
Well, what was it?
But, well, bad choices.
Okay.
You know, because, bad, just you don't be thinking,
Okay.
stinking thinking.
Okay.
But anyway, we get out to the corner, so the cops come, and they just go in my pocket, and they get the dope out of my pocket straight shit. They say, oh, you talk about it? No, you got... So they charged me with less than 28 grams of cocaine. That was out the Bowman. So this is when they opened up 701. I helped open 701 up.
And they had a lot of
Yes,
room then.
I helped open
They had a
701 up.
So he's talking about the new jail at Harris County.
Yes, 701. They had an air conditioner that sounded like a jet. Some of them guys, it sounded like a jet when they take off, like when they cut it on. And they didn't allow you to cover up from 7:30 in the morning, 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning to 5 in the evening. You can sit up in your bed, but you couldn't cover up. And you can see that air coming out of the air conditioner.
Ooh, I know.
It sounded like a jet. But anyway, so I that's when I got a 3-year TDC time. But TDC wasn't taking you unless you had
I thought you
5.
said you had 5 years.
Let me tell you.
I got you.
Yeah, they wasn't taking you unless you had 5 years and up. So I did that time in the county jail and got out in 3 months, 27 days, something like that. Got out and went back. And see, these felonies, these misdemeanors was adding up. I didn't understand nothing about the law. You don't understand three felonies classified as a habitual criminal.
Hold on a moment.
Yes.
Thank you for calling. Turn your radio down and state your opinion, please. Thank you.
Hello, how you doing, Miss King?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's a pleasure to talk to you again.
Good to see you. Talk to you.
Yeah. Anyway, how you doing, Mr. Long-Winded?
Hey there.
What's going on? Hey, Miss King, did you know the guy can sing real good?
I know he talks a lot. You can't shut him up. I know that. I remember I met him at the community service functions that we've been doing, the talks after Ferguson and what we can do for the community. And everybody there calls him Mr. Long-Winded. So I said, Mr. Long-Winded, you talk so much, you need to come on my show and talk and tell your story. So that's how I got him here.
I wonder if they call him Long-Winded because he can sing and hold a note for a long time or because he talk a lot, but I guess because he talk a lot.
Oh, he talk a lot too. Now, you heard it. I can't shut him up. And you know me. I've been interviewing people on this show for 3 years, and you hear Mr. Long-Winded, he got something to say, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. But, I've been listening to him on the radio, KCOH, and I think, the guy, I think he's trying to make a difference. He sent out a pretty good message. Sometimes you get a little too passionate about it, but I think you're going to make a difference there, Brother David.
Thank you, my brother.
Well,
Appreciate you.
this is Tracy Brown that's calling.
Okay.
Thank
yeah,
you, Tracy.
I make a difference. I'm long-winded, but I talk with sense. I talk a lot, but I talk with sense. I don't talk no foolishness. And I laugh a lot, but I talk with sense. And you may see some tears here after a while, because I'm real.
Okay. I look forward to meeting you in person one of your days, but, keep on doing what you're doing. Stay out of trouble, my brother.
Thank you, brother. God bless you.
Thank you, Tracy. Okay, so... all right, so we're talking about the habitual statute.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
you find out about the 25 to life?
Yes, ma'am.
And tell me about that.
Well, the night that I got arrested for this 25-year sentence, I was out working, and I helped this old lady. And I saw the lady since I've been out. I can't think her name right now, but she go to the church across from on Isabella, by
Things in your mouth.
Isabella and... I can't think of the name of that street, but it's where Miller High School used to be at. Miller Junior High School used to be at. It's a big church across the street. This lady had bought some trees, and those trees have grown now. Them trees was like about 3 foot when she bought them, and I transplanted them in the ground for them in the day before I got arrested, early that day. And that lady had invited me to a revival at that church. And I went, and on the way to church, there was a young man on Alabama. Matter of fact, right down from where you at on the corner. I got on Alabama and St. Emmanuel. On Alabama and St. Emmanuel, there was a car running. This car was an 86 Buick, I think it was. And I was walking down the street going to revival. And the young man riding a bicycle said, hey, mister, I give you $5, you get them keys out there for me. I said, no, man, ain't that car.
Was it day or night?
It was day. And I couldn't hear the car run. I didn't know it. So I kept going. I went on the revival. When I came out, it was just about dark. I went to revival with the people, and I came out, and I went back through that same area while I was going. That car was still there, and the car was running. So
it was running?
It was running. That car was still there. And I've been at revival like probably about an hour and a half. That car was running, and I heard the car running now because at nighttime it's quiet. And so the little triangle went in the back. I could see it was broken. There was glass on the floor. So I started hollering out in the neighborhood. I said, hey, anybody home? This car belongs to anybody, trying to get somebody's attention around there. Like, hey, y'all left y'all car running, and nobody said nothing. So the car running, so, you know, me, I was an addicted person at the time. I had addictive behavior. So
You
I
got in the
opened up the
car.
car. I
Oh
opened
my
up the
goodness.
car, and this is what I did. I popped the hood, and I'm studying hollering. Ain't nobody. I popped the hood, and I popped the hood. I can't remember that. I think that it did. It had a lock on it. It didn't come all the way up or something, so I couldn't disconnect the batteries. And somebody had jammed the key up in it. You couldn't turn it off. So, and I tried to disconnect the car. So I got in the car and just drove off. Nobody came. I drove off. Well, I know it. That's why I say you do stupid stuff, you know. And
And you
this
had
is
just
true.
left church.
I had just left revival, and those people had told me to, you know, come back. But anyway, I drove the car, and I looked I looked for some information. I found a gas. You know, like you buy gas. That was a gas somebody had paid. But I guess it was a lady name on it. I can't pronounce it. But they was out of the Woodlands. The car had been stolen from downtown, and I tried to call that name. Nobody answered the phone, and I tried to, like I said, I tried to disconnect the car. I couldn't disconnect it, and so I got caught driving the car on Yellowstone, and got right up in there. And the cops pulled me over, and they told me the car reported. I told them what happened, just like I told you. So they called that number, and they got hold to the lady. And this is what the lady said. She said, well, she said his story very well may be true. But remember, I'm on parole now.
Right.
I'm on parole because I don't, you know. She said his story very well may be true. She said because Metro Police seen some Hispanic guys steal a car, run out with the car. And, you know, but they took me down, like I said. So when I came up for hearing, I wouldn't take the sentence. They tried to offer me, this is what they did. After about 2 weeks I was in jail, I went to trial, went to hearing, not trial, you know, court, you know. And I wouldn't take the time they gave me. They were trying to give me 8 years. I said, I ain't stole no car. I wouldn't take it. Going back to my cell, a couple weeks later, I go back to court again. And they tried to offer me 6 years. I wouldn't take it. But somebody in there, some guys, some jailhouse lawyers say, man, you better take them 6 years, because if you go to jury trial, you're going to get 45 years.
Right.
So I tried to call my court-appointed lawyer back, and he came. But when he came back, he said they denied it because they you know, I'm a habitual criminal, and they gave me 25 years. So I wouldn't sign for it right then. It took me probably about 2 or 3 months to sign for it, and I finally signed for it and took it.
For that.
Yeah, but you know, some good came out of it. When you finish hearing my story, some good came out of it.
Let's take a break. If you're still on there, caller, please turn your volume down and state your comment, please.
How you doing, Vivian? This is Danny Snee. How you doing?
Hey, Danny, how are you?
Doing just great. Sitting here enjoying the show, and I want to call and push David up for having the courage to come in and tell his story and share it with us. It's just it's amazing, and tell him that again, push him up for having the courage to tell the story. This is not a Christian program, but I was reading over something that kind of lined up with my life and David's life and many others. And some people may ask, why do we tell our worst part of our lives? What is it about encourages us to tell people things that don't make us look good? And I'm going to read this, and I'm going to get off the line and let him finish. And it says, in 1 John, verse 9, if we confess our sins, he is faithful and just and will forgive us of our sins and purify us from all our unrighteousness. So sometimes when we tell our stories in a very transparent way, it's a way to cleanse us. And it's not to glorify the things we did, it's to confess them openly before people and before God. Again, thank you, baby, for having a platform to allow persons like myself, a returning citizen who's still on parole, who's done a lot of things that for some would you feel like you should never tell nobody you did that. But I tell them, man, for me, stupidity was a pre-existing condition. Thank you, and I'll sit back and listen.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's take one more call. Call, if you're still there, turn your volume down and state your comment, please.
Let's take one more call. Call if you're still there, turn your volume down and state your comment, please. Yes, hi.
Hi.
I was looking at the program this afternoon, and Mr. Edwards
that that lady?
I have to honestly say to you that I respect what you're doing.
Okay.
And I hope that you are trying to reach as many young men as possible.
Before this show over with, I will.
He does. He does. That's how I met him, at a community of faith
Yeah.
volunteer program. So he's doing that.
Uh-huh.
And I am too.
Great. That's great. That's great. I'm a school teacher, and I have seen several young men struggle with temptations around them because of where they live. And it is so sad because I've had about 5 or 6 young men actually go to jail because of trumped-up charges. And some of them are serving between 8 and 99 years.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, well, hopefully you will. I have a YouTube station channel, and these shows are there where people tell their stories. So maybe sometime during
Yes,
breaks you can go and find some of the interesting one. I've had an aggravated robber, young man on his way to prison, tell his story and why he did it. He was only 18 or 19, I think. He messed up out of high school. I've had all kind of stories. I've been doing this for 3 years. So I have a lot of stories.
Under your name? Is it under your name?
It is. You go to YouTube/user/Vivian R. King. YouTube/user/Vivian R. King. And you'll get to my channel, and it's probably over 100 shows on there with different topics. Yeah, give me until Sunday, though, because about the last 20, I need to go here and put some titles in it. But someone will put this one on probably next week. But thank you for watching, and let's get to the end of his show. Keep watching it. So
thank you. I do appreciate this. Thank you. And if he gives talks to high schools, he should probably try to contact some of the high schools in Houston.
Well, let me just tell you this. If you would like that, at the end, if you watch it to the end and the credits roll, you can, my email address is there, my phone number. You can always call my office and get my information, and I can get in touch with you for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good evening.
God bless you. Thank you for calling.
For
watching and calling. Okay.
Yes,
okay, let's talk about that now. So you get 25 years for UUMV on something crazy, really.
Yes.
Really crazy. Insane. And so tell me about prison. How did you cope with 25 years on a car that you had been seeing in the neighborhood all afternoon? And I wonder, that's interesting. It's interesting that the young man that you passed when you were on your way to church at the revival didn't mess with that car, but yet you did.
Yeah, and the car was still there, like I said, about an hour and a half.
Isn't that strange?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, maybe he tried, and it was because it was jammed.
He couldn't get the keys.
But he could have driven it.
I think, well, what happened, he probably seen the people jump out the car because he was riding a bicycle.
So he knew it was hot.
Right.
And you did too.
Yeah.
I mean,
and my grandmother always told me, eyes on, hands off. So all them things she told me came back and hunted me when I got locked up.
So once you got locked up, tell me what the pivotal change was that you knew when you got out that you would never go back.
When I got locked up, I found out that I had a lot of talents I didn't know I had. Like drawing, I found out I could draw.
And did you take a class, or how'd you know?
No, ma'am. You know, remember that when I went to school in Mississippi, I was in a different environment. I was in a well-loved Christian environment. I have 3 aunts that still living now. My dad passed away, but I have three aunts that's living on my dad's side. And I was in a different environment when I went there. I was in a hostile environment here. I've seen a lot of stuff. My mother got raped by 4 black guys when I was a kid. You know, they took her off, and she left about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And by 4:30 in the morning, she came home with no clothes and with a bloody sheet wrapped around her. And she told me that 4 black guys had forced in the car and raped her. And it was like around about 72, 73.
How old were you? About 12?
Probably at that time, about 12.
How did you feel knowing your mother been raped?
Hurt, because she had been gone all day, didn't know where she was. And
where,
I was sort of
where
like...
was your stepfather?
Somewhere out drinking on the corner. He used to hang on McGowan Live Oak. But I was pretty much the breadwinner in my family. I'm the oldest boy. I have 2 sisters older than me. And I was sort of like the breadwinner at an early age. Like I told you, I had the mindset I wasn't going to school looking any kind of way. And a lot of times we didn't have lights, no running water, nothing in the house, you know. But anyway, I was an honor student in Mississippi. I played sports. You know, I played basketball, football, ran track, blew the baritone in junior high school, and got pretty good. And I was an honor student. And I was promoted to the 10th grade. I didn't just drop out of school. I quit school to come back and help my mother in Houston. My mother was doing bad, dragging my little brother. At the time, I think he was like, he's 5 years younger than me. I think he was like 12, something like that, 11 or 12. And dragged him up and down the streets in 3rd Ward, you know. And I came back to try to help my mother. She died a couple of years later, you know. And, but you know, Miss King, let me say this here. Drugs and alcohol wasn't my problem. I didn't find it out until I got locked up.
And when you got locked up, what did you find out? I want to be in prison, and I want you to talk about that.
Okay, then. Like I said, in jail, I found out I had a lot of hidden talents.
Like drawing?
Drawing, and that's how I supported myself. And
what do you mean by that?
I didn't have any money. And when I got to prison, I remember I left there in 77. I left Mississippi in 77. And this was I got locked up in 93. I got to my unit in 94. And my dad was living at the time. He died 2 years later, but my dad was living, so I wrote my dad and I mailed it to his sister. She's deceased now. And
you're going to stay on topic.
I'm
she
on topic.
wasn't dead then, and you're going to tell me about
I'm finna tell you,
get in that year and stay in that year. Don't jump around.
Okay, then.
It's too hard to follow.
Okay. When I got to my unit, 94, which was the boy unit, I wrote my dad and mailed it to his sister's address. I didn't know his address. Well, she gave my dad the letter, but she wrote me first. Mm-hmm. And remember, I had been locked up one time already. And she said, I gave your dad your letter. She said, write me and let me know what you in for and if you need any help. And when she told me that, Ms. King, something just went through me. And I may get passionate and start crying. Because my auntie, she said, she didn't say you in prison again. She didn't say, she said, let me know if you need help.
Right. She didn't condemn you.
Right. She was a widow with 3 daughters. She's dead now. Mm-hmm. And I wrote her, and these are not tears of sadness, these are tears of joy.
I understand. Just tell the story, baby. I'm with you.
Okay. And she say, let me know if you need any help. I wrote her back. I sent her some money slips. My auntie said, I'm going to send you $50 a month. My auntie sent me $50 faithfully for 5 years.
Wow.
And I took that money. I took that money and bought me art supplies. And I had everything everybody else in prison had. Matter of fact, I used to loan other guys stuff in prison. And so that's why you see me talk like I do. And I have the passion that I do. Because a lot of this stuff out here is nonsense. There's a lot of people crying out here. People looking at people. When you hear me saying something about somebody baggy pants, I'm not condemning them. Those guys with them baggy pants is crying. And they need to be chastised. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people is profiting off of us criminals, off of some of these people out here. And sorry to say this here, but the system, and I'm not sorry, they use black, white, Hispanic, and everybody else they can use. There's a lot of hurting people out here, and they're all different colors.
Right. But let's talk about your pain. So when your aunt said, how can I help you, baby? I'm going to send you $50 a month.
Yes, she did.
And she did.
Yes.
How did that make you feel?
That made me feel like somebody cared. Because what happened, Ms. King, I got to say this. My mother's older sister said something to me when I was 11 years old that wounded my spirit. Mm-hmm. And God revealed this to me several years ago in a church in 5th Ward. I was at a church and I had invited I was introducing this singer from a...
When you were 11. Now, are you talking about now or at 11?
Now, but my mother's sister had said something.
What did she say?
One day I walked over from McGowan and Live Oak area to by Jack Jakes where my auntie raised my 2 sisters. So I went over there. There wasn't no lights on the house, wasn't no food. So I walked over there to get me and my brother something to eat. And it was weather like this, drizzling cold. I had a T-shirt on, didn't even have a jacket. And my little brother was there. He was about 5 or 6 years old at the time. And I walked over there, didn't know who my mother was, my stepdaddy was. Went over there to try to get us something to eat. And I walked over there and knocked on the door. And my auntie, she's dead now, my mother's sister. I knocked on the door and said, come in. And my 2 sisters was there and her 2 kids. And her husband was laying in the bed. He had the door open. And I spoke to everybody. And I said, Ruben, mom and dad at home. And I was wondering if me and Eric could have something to eat. And I can't say what she said on the air, but I left there with a broken heart.
Well, you can use phrases or abbreviations.
She told me, she looked me in the eye, she said, hell no, get your black A out of here and go to your mammy's house and eat. And that broke my heart. It crushed me right then. And I could hear her husband say, Ruben, say, that's doing it. Say, don't do that. And he said, come back, and I left. I left there crying. And what that did, it made me an independent man. Even when I was on drugs, I was very independent. But
shortly after that happened at 11,
yes.
you started roofing at 13, right? You started working at 13, right?
But I carried that hurt. I didn't know it.
Right.
Yes, I carried that stuff for years, even when I got arrested this time. But what I want to say is that ain't in Mississippi, what God showed me, what one ain't it done, God revealed this to me. Well, after I've been out several years ago, what one ain't it done, another ain't undone. So when my aunt in Mississippi had told me, when I got to my unit 94, when she said, let me know if you need help, that was the healing process right there. That's why I cried when she told me that.
Started the healing process.
Yeah, that started the healing process.
She didn't care about what you did.
No.
She didn't condemn you. She just said, can I help you?
Right.
And what'd you tell her? Send me some money?
I wrote her back and I told her, yes, ma'am. And she said, I'm going to send you $50. Because I remember when I got locked up the first time.
Let's
remember
stay on
right
topic.
There,
Let's stay on topic. Okay.
She didn't have it. I had asked her because she didn't have anything. And
she didn't have money then, the first
I don't know if she felt bad or something about it.
Maybe she was more prosperous. Sometimes when people are down,
yes, ma'am.
You assume that everybody else is up.
Yes,
I'm a lawyer and people beg me
yes,
constantly.
Yes, ma'am.
And sometimes I'm up and sometimes I'm down.
Yes, ma'am.
So just because you're down doesn't mean that everybody else is up. So she might not have had it the first time around, but with the second time around,
realize that now.
she had it.
Sometimes
you don't always have it.
Right. You may see somebody with money, but just because they have it don't mean they have it alone.
Right.
So,
right.
So that's my understanding.
So she did help you when she could.
She did, and she died. She helped me from 94 to 99, and she died September of 99. I didn't find out about it December, so I was crushed.
Right, but she helped you as long as she could, so that was good.
Yes, she did.
And when she helped you, how did that affect your stay in prison?
Oh, man, it changed my way of thinking. And I started reading. I started studying. I studied religion. I studied every major religion that it is. And I started reading. I used to read a lot of Western books. I started reading nonfiction, and I got hold of some good books that really helped me, that really opened my eyes up. I read books on the media. I read books on religion, and I studied religion because I wanted to know God for myself.
Right. We don't have much time,
yes, ma'am.
So I want to get to the good part. So while you're in prison, what revelation happened to say, I'm not going to ever come here again? I don't want to ever come back. What was the turning point? I'm sure you turned several corners.
The turning point was me putting into my rehabilitation, because the only rehabilitation, let me say this here, you got a lot of guys go to prison, they go to, it's mandatory they go to substance abuse in prison, they go there just to have it on the books. But the only rehabilitation in prison that you get is what you put into it. But what happened with me, God know everything you need. The late great Ann Richards, when she was the governor of Texas, she had a program to try to stop the recidivism rate, for inmates. And I had the privilege of going to one of those programs. And that program, had not I went there, I'd have probably been dead or back in prison again. That program really opened my eyes up, and what it did, it made the inmates hold each other accountable for their actions. And it was great. And I seen guys.
Do you remember the name of the program?
Yes, it was the Kyle unit over in Kyle, Texas,
was that
San Marcos.
The Kairos
it's like
program?
No. I was in Kairos.
Kairos.
Kairos is the ministry.
Okay.
The Kyle unit is a unit, and it's like a safe P program, what you want to call it, but it's a rehabilitation unit. And this, they're preparing you. You've been gone for 12, 15, 20 years. You don't, society changed. You don't know how to write no check. You don't know how to open a checking account. So they getting you ready, teaching you life skills, and getting you ready for the outside world. This program opened up my eyes. And
stop for just a moment. Hold that thought and let's take a call. Caller, turn your volume completely down and talk on the receiver, on your phone to me. Otherwise, we won't be able to hear you.
Hello.
State your comment. Hey, well, you know what you're doing. Sorry. How you doing?
I wouldn't go that far, Vivian. But these are the best kind of shows. And I think this question should be asked on these occasions. Is that, I'm sorry, I didn't get your guest name.
David Edwards.
Mr. Edwards, did you change? Did the world change? I mean, yeah, did you change or did the world change? And I'll hang up. Good show. Thank you.
Thank you.
I changed and the world changed because, I went to high school in Mississippi from 74 to 77. And Mississippi back in the 50s was a racial place. But I didn't experience none of that. And I experienced more, I ain't gonna call it racism, it's just stupidity, man. It's just ignorance. Not ignorance, it's really it's stupidity. What's out here now, what I see out here for 12 years, what I see out here, and a lot of people, somebody's profiting from.
Let's not go there. Did you change or did the world change? Because we don't have much time.
I changed and the world changed. I put it like that. I changed for the better for me, but I'm living in a messed up world.
We have another caller. Caller, please turn your volume down and ask your question, please.
Number one, I was incarcerated for only 31 days, but the problem I had was this. He was stating about his background and his structure. Do you believe that a man need another man? When you're a boy, you need a man in your life to show you the role model you need to be successful and to outcome, or a strong woman to be woman to get you where you need to be, so you'll have some structure of where to go and where to look for out of life.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you answer that?
What was she asking? Do I think a role model for a man or a woman? Do
you need a role model for structure in your life?
Yes, I'm gonna say that because Sam Cooke was my role model, the late great Sam Cooke, and Mahalia Jackson. So I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna answer that. I'm a spiritual person. I'm not a religious person. I'm a spiritual person, and I get inspiration from. I don't watch anything on television. I don't listen to anything that come across the airways. I'm 53 years old, and I don't watch anything. I don't watch much TV at all. I do a lot of studying, but I don't watch anything that they put out there, and I don't listen to anything. So I get inspiration from the late great Mahalia Jackson, people like that, and Sam Cooke. So I'm gonna say yes, they can be role models.
Well, there's supposed to be a song. We are really running out of time.
Yes,
we got
ma'am.
about 7 or 8 minutes.
Song ain't about a minute and a half.
Okay, so tell us if there's a song that. Thank you, ma'am, for calling. If there was a song that inspired you in jail. Okay, you were telling us. Oh, I'm sorry. Give me a couple of minutes to tell us about the program that Governor Ann Richards had.
Ann Richards had started this program, and like I said, God knows what all you need. I had plans to go to Austin, do something. I had some aspirations over there, but
While in prison or out?
yes, while in prison, I was in the ministry.
Okay.
And I was in the ministry in prison, but part of my parole, I got set off. I did 6 years worth of set-offs. And let me say this here. The parole board didn't let me out. God let me out. Because I did 6 years worth of set-off when I came up. And God knew everything. The parole, part of my parole stipulation was to go to a 9-month treatment facility. If I could successfully complete that program, I could do the rest of my time out here, which I did, and didn't know that alcohol and chemical dependency in the state of Texas is considered as a disability. And they had, Texas Rehabilitation they helped me get on my feet once I got out, just like that.
What's happening with the song in jail? You got out of jail now, right?
No, I'm in prison. I'm still hadn't got to that unit yet.
Okay.
But when I was in prison, before I got out and went to this 9-month program, I heard a song come across the radio one day, and the song was called, I didn't know who sung this song, and but that song blessed me, and I used to wait on Sundays by the radio for this song to come on. That song really ministered to me, and the song was called I Can't Walk Without You Holding My Hand.
So you can sing it if you know it.
But I had do acapella. And I said, whenever I get out of prison, I'm going to sing this song at somebody's church. And I've been out of prison 12 years, and God has really blessed me. I even recorded a song of my own. But the song kind of go, I thought that number one would surely be me. I thought I would be what I wanted to be. I thought I could build on life's sinking sand, but I can't even walk without you holding my hand. Now I thought that I could do a lot on my own. I thought I could make it all alone. I thought of myself as a mighty big man, but I can't even walk without you holding my hand. Lord, I can't even walk without you holding my hand. The mountains too high and the valleys too wide. Down on my knees, I've learned to stand, because I can't even walk without you holding my hand. Now, this is the part I like. I think that I'll make Jesus my all and all. And from now on, when I'm in trouble, on his name I'll call. And if I don't trust him, I'll be less than a man, because I can't even walk without you holding my hand. Amen.
Amen.
Eat your heart out,
Amen.
Pastor Nash.
I can't walk without you holding my hand.
And that
Thank
song
you.
really blessed me. That song ministered to me.
And so you would hear it every
I would
every
wait
Sunday.
for that song on Sunday. I would wait for it.
Is that Sam Cooke?
No, that was by a guy named Charles Brown.
Okay.
I thought it was one of the Williams brothers, the late Frank Williams. I think he sung it, but a guy named Charles Brown.
So how did that make you feel in prison? You waited for Sunday for that song.
Yes.
What were you saying? Did it make you feel like if I have faith and I just keep living each day trying to accomplish something, eventually I'll be out of here?
No, it's just was so much. I've been in riots. I've seen a lot of injustice in prison. I've been in riots. I've been where they have shut the units down. And I used to write letters for a guy, and I used to hear about riots on other units. Y'all don't hear about this stuff out here.
Right.
Well, you're an attorney, you may do, but a lot of people.
We can do another show
Yes,
on the
ma'am.
inside, but
Yes, ma'am.
but I understand.
Yes, ma'am.
What was it making you feel?
Those songs kept me sane. They kept me
Grounded
in peace. I
sane.
stayed in peace.
Right.
And I had younger guys just come to me. They been in so much turmoil. They come to me, and they say, "Man, how you?" And I used to share the word with them. And let me say this before closing. So many mothers, they flush money down there to their sons. The opportunities in prison is there. You can go to prison with a third grade education and come out with a BA degree. And they don't monitor what their sons doing is they taking advantage of these programs to just flush money. And that's why so many of them get out and go back, or get killed. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of this stuff is, what helped me is toughness, accountability. If you love somebody, you're going to discipline. And prison helped me, and I thank God I went to prison. Because had not I went, I've been shot 5 times at 38.
Been shot 5 times?
Yes, I got shot in 87, 5 times at 38. And before I got shot, God warned me while I was hanging there. So, what I've been seeing out here for 12 years.
Since you've been out on parole?
Since I've been out on
12
parole,
years.
we have a spiritual problem, a badge. I've been to several states, ma'am. I worked in Mississippi, I've been to Chicago, Indiana. I've been to Missouri, I've been to Arkansas. You got the same problem. We have a spiritual problem in America. It's not a black and white problem, it's a spiritual problem because white people hurting, Hispanic hurting, everybody hurting. We have a spiritual problem. And it doesn't matter, it shouldn't matter what denomination you is. People need to come together for the good of everybody.
That's true.
And that's what the dream is to me. And I
Well, we
thank
have
God.
4 minutes, and
Yes, ma'am.
you can have this 4 minutes, David, any way you want. You've blessed my readers.
Yes,
My
ma'am.
readers like true confessions.
Yes, ma'am.
They like to know that people have been through the storm
Yes,
and
ma'am.
have come on the outside of the storm.
Yes,
It's still a storm on the
Yes.
outside, but you're not on that storm inside, and you figured out a way to make a living.
Yeah.
You're accountable.
Yeah.
You're not blaming anybody
No,
for your
no.
problems. You accepted responsibility.
And I don't do everything right.
Right.
I make mistakes. But, there's so much confusion out here. And
How do you keep out of the confusion?
by
Because at
being,
53, you could still mess up.
Yeah. But
How are you staying off alcohol and drugs?
I used to smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day. I haven't smoked a cigarette since '95.
And most
Yes.
crackheads and alcoholics at least smoke
Yeah.
cigarettes.
For one,
it's like cigarettes
for one,
is like what they
no,
do.
I don't mess with none of that stuff. You can't pay me to mess with that stuff no more. I did some hard time, and I shed a lot of tears. These tears you see me crying, they real tears. And the day you offered me here, you invited me here, you asked a question, and I said the wrong people, the people that voice need to be heard is not getting a chance, and you invited me to this show. And it's too many people hiding behind religion and the word of God. I'm not condemning nobody, but the ministry has to come out of the church. You got to, how can you have a church in every city and all these corners and nobody don't even wave at each other? You're not assistant to anybody.
They run over you getting out of the
I
parking
counted
lot.
3 churches in the third ward on the same corner. One church needs to work on these people, won't even put no money together to go help the church for the betterment of the community. You got folks running around like roaches in the community, and the people come out of churches, and they have these programs in churches. And I go to church, and I'm saying, what do 100 women in red have to do with anybody's salvation? You got people out here dying. You have these programs out here. It's time for us.
Everybody is not equipped to do the same thing. So the women in red, I'm not condemning them.
No,
either.
ma'am, I'm not either.
I'm just saying, I'm not saying you are. I know you're not. I know you're talking right. But I'm just saying, where can a person go if they can't go to church? So you have to have the programs for everybody, for the brokenhearted, for the dope
Yes,
addicts,
ma'am.
for the ex-cons,
Yes, ma'am.
for the motherless children,
Yes.
for the people who are positive, for the people with AIDS, for the people who are trying to just improve
They are
their
good
spiritual
people.
life. The good
they
people.
need to be rich.
Right.
God sent this son according to that Bible, and I'm not going to preach, but according to that Bible, when I read it, to die for those lost people, for the murderers and all kind of people. But this is what I think needs to happen in my last minute and a half of saying something. It's time for people to come out of them churches and hit these streets. There's no way we couldn't do this stuff when I was coming up.
Right.
The winos had permission to whoop me on the streets when I was coming up.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff going on. Nobody don't want to hold nobody accountable.
Because, like you said, we can't discipline the kids. I mean, if
No.
you can't use force to discipline kids, the kids are going to use force on
Ma'am,
us.
there's somebody profiting from that.
Right.
It's people profiting, and the people in the community have to suffer. I never had to ride on the back of the bus. I never had to drink out of segregated water fountain, but I'm benefiting from something that somebody else did. Right. So I'm not going to go in my community and respect now an old person. I'm not going to disrespect now an old person.
But they'll disrespect us.
Right. And
kids will disrespect us.
And it's time out for that. And
it's time for us to whoop that butt. That's what it's time for us to do.
It's time for these people to come out of these churches and hit these streets.
Right.
You're not going to get out here and sell dope. You're not going to get out here and think you're going to be tough and nobody hold you accountable. Right. That's what the problem is. Right. This is all across America. I've been to 12 different states. And this ain't by chance.
People are not held
accountable. So it's
accountable.
time for people to start taking their communities back. We're going to supply you with some jobs, but you ain't finna come out here and tell what our ancestors and everybody else
have worked for.
That's right. So it's time out for that mess. And that's what the problem is. And that's coming from an everything.
Ex-con,
and I'm willing to get out on the front line. Right. I don't want to blame no white folks. I don't want to blame no Hispanic. I want everybody get together and let's make this thing work.
Right, I agree.
And stop watching all the junk on the television. They got nothing but lewd stuff all over television, and people entertain this mess. Okay. And somebody get me in your church, and let's get on the front line. Come out to these churches, let's hit these streets.
All right.
8 days a week.
Well, I got the wrap-up sign, so thank you again for watching Truth and Justice with Vivian King. I'm so thankful to my guest, David Edwards. I'm trying to go back to my old format, guys, but y'all got to help me. It's hard every week to try to get somebody to come tell their story. I'm trying. So please help me. If you know someone that has a story, invite them to call me. Google me if you don't have my phone number. And I am delighted to have you on my show to tell your story. So thank you, and remember, I want to tell your story. Good night.
told my God to take me by my hand and lead me to the promised land. One day I fell down on my knees to pray. I asked the Lord to help me along my way. Lord, I need you. Love